So it's like 11:30 at night. I literally just realized I already recorded this horoscope, and it's so funny because it was super weird. I had drank like a rock star at like 6 p.m. and I sounded so cracked out in my horoscope, and I thought I did pretty good. I go to upload it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to double check just to make sure it's all good. And something happened with my microphone to where the whole recording, all of the audio just sounded like computer noises, like dial-up internet from the 90s. So here I am at 11:30 at night. I'm crashing off the Rockstar. So I'm bringing this up because I was like super energized in this horoscope, and now I'm like super duper tired. So anyway, that's very, and it's so funny. That's so on point for the astrology this week. And in the moment too, because right now we're doing the right now in this moment, like this is literally the chart for this moment that I'm recording this. Or actually, this is not the chart. I lied. But the moon is conjoining Mars right now, and Mars is about to station retrograde. So it's like all of this energy, and then it kind of goes away. But anyway, you guys know who I am. You guys know what's up. Thank you guys for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I'm really excited you guys can be here with me this week because this is like number 2 most anticipated week, day or week of the year. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to go over, and I honestly think it's going to be really good. So, well, I think this is going to be a better second take. So anyway, let's just jump straight into it. Let's go ahead and do this. I fucked up. See, I'm like all out of energy here. So anyway, we start this week off on Monday with the moon trining Jupiter and Saturn. Now, if you remember what we talked about last week, as we got into this week, we were going to have the moon enter Taurus, and it was going to conjoin Uranus, where it's about kind of like getting comfortable in uncomfortability. But the thing is with Monday's really cool because there's this stability that's here. There's this solid ground where you can get solid footing. And I think that's really exciting, especially if the past couple of weeks have been pretty crazy for you. But as the moon's in Taurus, making this trine to Jupiter and Saturn throughout the whole day, well, really, it's just going to be, this is by 11 p.m. on Monday night. So for most of the day, the moon's going to be applying to Jupiter and then eventually applying to Saturn. This is really showing, like what I was really talking about in the last video, which I'm going to be referring a lot to that since I'm like super drained in energy right now, which is just, it's very appropriate. But anyway, starting off this week with the on Monday with the moon going into, or the moon in Taurus, trining Jupiter, trining Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn are about to station direct. Jupiter's literally stationing direct this week. That's the good news this week. Sure, Mars is stationing retrograde, but Jupiter's stationing direct. And with the moon applying to that trine, this is kind of being comfortable with what we have. The moon in Taurus, it's like, okay, we're grounded, we're stable, we feel connected, we feel like we have good footing. As it's trining Jupiter, that's, giving us, I guess, a optimistic look. That's Jupiter and Capricorn being about like, this is what we have, this is what's here. I talked a lot about in the last video, the other recording that you guys can't watch because it fucked up. It sucks because I felt like I did really good on it. I talked about how Jupiter in Sagittarius last year was very idealistic, right? Jupiter in Capricorn is realistic. Like, this is what we have here and this is what we have now. Jupiter in Sag is like, oh, well, anything is possible. Anything can happen. Jupiter in Capricorn's like, well, what do we have right here and right here, right now? What is, actually tangibly or tangible in our hands? And I think on Monday, as the moon's trining Jupiter and Saturn, this is like, hey, what are we building? What are we trying to find stability in? What are we trying to restructure? And the moon in Taurus is like really solidifying and really cementing in some really stable new adventures. I think with Jupiter about to station direct here and Saturn about to station direct, there's about to be a lot of new forward movement in the bigger parts of our lives. And this moon in Taurus is just affirming that by saying, hey, I'm starting to feel comfortable with where I'm grounded here. It's kind of like getting your footing right before, like if you're going to be up to bat, you don't just walk up to bat and then like hold up your arms, right? You make sure your foot or your feet are sunk in the ground the way that they need to be. And that's kind of how Monday is. We're going to need to be like, we're going to need to have a good positioning and a good footing to start this week off, because this week is kind of a lot. There's kind of a lot going on, or it's not even a lot that's going on. It's just, it's kind of like an emotional roller coaster. So Monday looks exciting. It looks like we're getting comfortable, but not like lazy comfortable, not like we're not growing comfortable, but more of like, this is like, there's actually some stability. There's actually something anchoring us down. As we move into Tuesday, this is where things get a little bit funky, because this is when the moon is going to be moving into Gemini and then applying to a trine with Mercury and also sextiling Venus. So as we go into Tuesday, this is where we kind of turn into chatty Cathys. But one of the big things I was really talking about in the last recording was when you have your internal dialogue, right? We all have it. If you don't, then you're a psychopath. But this internal dialogue that we all have you ever noticed how it sounds completely different when you actually speak it out into the world? Like something that sounds right in your head, when you actually go to say it out loud, you're like, oh, that kind of sounded weird. I don't think that was the right thing I wanted to say. With the moon going into Gemini, making that trine to Mercury, making that sextile to Venus, take that internal dialogue and say it out loud. Talk to yourself a little bit here. With the moon in Gemini, this is where we kind of need to work out our ideas, right? Like, instead of just internalizing everything, write something down, talk to someone else, speak it out loud. Just talk. I mean, I might sound crazy right now, but I talk to myself out loud all the time. It's how I know my ideas are sane, because if I just say it all in my head, then, was it real? Did I actually say that? Was this a dream? Anyway, as the moon's making this trine to Mercury, with Mercury now in Libra, this is a really exciting, I think this is a really good time to have a good conversation with somebody, connect with other people. The moon is also sextiling Venus, with Venus in Leo. This is going to be the time where, like, if you want to communicate love, if you want to communicate passion, if you want to communicate from the heart, Tuesday's a really good way to look at it. Now, I ended the horoscope for for this week, the one that you guys can't watch. I feel bad because I'm going to bring it up a lot, because I feel like I did really good. But anyway, I ended it because at the end of this week, the moon will go into Leo and conjoin Venus, and I really talked about the heart and coming from the heart, and that's something I really want to focus on too on Tuesday, with the moon sextiling Venus, communicating from the heart, communicating on what's fair, not saying what you need to say, but like, don't be afraid to go overboard. If like you have something that you want to communicate to someone, like, emphasize what you want to say. With Venus and Leo being like, hey, I need the attention. And that sounds kind of vain, but also Venus and Leo is looking to have fun. Venus and Leo is looking to live through the heart. Like, put your heart into stuff, right? And as the moon's trining Mercury, communicate this message, talk about it, share with people. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a good time to just like get your ideas out. I also talked about, like, if you're a musician or an artist, this is a great day to be creative. But on a personal development level, on Monday with that moon in Taurus trining Saturn and Jupiter, this is like, all right, I see where I can find some stability. I see where I can actually get a plan to come together and get something going. As we go into Tuesday with the moon in Gemini trining Mercury and sextiling Venus, this is when the ball starts really rolling. This is when shit starts kind of clicking. Things start kind of making sense, and things start kind of going in your favor. It's kind of like a little bit of a domino effect. But then we get to not the climax, but one of the peaks of this week, and that's Wednesday, when Mars stations retrograde. Now, I'm really upset about the recording that I can't put out, because I fucking just really nailed a lot of analogies in this. But this is the one thing I really want to talk about. I was talking to Joe Gleason about this, and if you guys don't know Joe Gleason, she's a great astrologer. Follow her on Twitter. I don't know her YouTube. I think she has a YouTube. I don't remember. She's on Twitter for sure. Joe Gleason. We were talking about this Mars retrograde, and how with Mars always moving forward, right, and now slowing down to station retrograde, and it's going to move backwards. I kind of relate this to if you guys have ever played Rummy before. If you played Rummy before, you understand like how someone will like play their turn, right? And they pick up a card, and then all of a sudden they like lay down 3 cards here, 3 cards here. They do all of these moves, right? And then they stop. The Mars retrograde, the Mars stationing retrograde is like, all of the cards are out on the table now. Everyone that you're playing the game with has played their hand. And now you get to decide what is the next best move for you. This isn't like, in my opinion, it's not necessarily like, oh, Mars retrograde, oh, I got to move back, I got to do stuff over again. But now all of the cards are on the table. Everything's there for you to see. And what me and Joe Gleason were talking about was when Mars stations and moves backwards, it's kind of like, I analogize this through Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if you guys ever watched the show. This is only for the Gen Zs out there. But in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, they dramatize, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like a card game. It's like Pokemon. They dramatize the people playing the cards, right? And it's the super intense moment of all these people playing these cards, and then they always dramatize them like receding. It's like they put the cards out and then they walk away, and then it's the other person's turn to play their cards. That's kind of like the Mars retrograde, right? So now with all of your cards on the table, what's next? And the one thing I wanted to hit on is this is also, and you guys know I really don't talk about this, but the moon is going to be squaring the sun on Wednesday. And what I wanted to bring up with that is the moon's in Gemini, squaring the sun in Virgo. This is like doing math. This is this is crunching the numbers. This is seeing your moves. This is, going from plan A, plan B, plan C, what happens when I do this and that? What would happen if I did this and that? This is really asking all of the questions that you can. Like on Wednesday, what you want to do on Wednesday is really look at the cards in your hand and look at what's out on the table and what you think everyone else has, and kind of decide from there what's your best move going to be. But there's hope with this because also on Wednesday, we're also going to be having the sun trine Jupiter. Now, of course, I have this at 11 p.m., so this is like right when the sun hits 18 degrees. But the sun's going to be trining Jupiter all fucking day. Now, this is really exciting because, as you guys should know by now, the trine aspect is ruled by Jupiter. That's because Jupiter stations direct and retrograde when it trines the sun. And with the sun trining Jupiter, that means Jupiter's about to station direct. But with the sun trining Jupiter, this is also seeing the opportunity. This is seeing how things are going to move forward. This is seeing how things are going to play out. Jupiter in Capricorn's like, oh, I see how this is going to work. I see how this is going to go. This is also seeing the opportunity. This is seeing the optimism. This is seeing the good luck. This is seeing the fortune. This is seeing the moment to take action. And I think as the sun's in Virgo, calculating everything, Jupiter's in Capricorn being like, this is the situation. Jupiter in Sagittarius was the time to believe in, what's on the other side of the horizon. Jupiter in Sag was the time to tell the campsite stories. Jupiter in Capricorn's reality. Jupiter in Capricorn's game time. And during the sun Jupiter trine, while the moon's squaring the sun, while Mars is stationing retrograde, this is the time to understand that all the cards are laid out on the table. What's next? And for some people, this is going to go two ways. For people that were like me, who haven't done shit over the past few months, because I decided, I would much rather take action during the Mars retrograde than Mars going direct, just squaring Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn. It's going really slow. I was like, I feel like that's a good time to not do anything because it just sounds really frustrating. This Mars retrograde, over the past, literally since Mars entered Aries in June 23rd or June 28th, I can't remember. I really haven't done too much. Now with Mars stationing and moving retrograde, this is when I'm going to start doing a whole bunch of stuff in my life. Then the other type of people are the people who have been just absolutely grinding themselves to death with all of the work and all of their energy. I was literally just talking to my barber about this, and he was like, dude, I literally he was working 80 hours a week for 2 weeks, and he hasn't taken a day off. And I'm like, sounds like you're doing Mars the other way around. And now it's when Mars stations retrograde, he's taking this big break. And as Mars stations retrograde, this is the time to kind of go, what do you need to, what is the action that you need to take now? Now that all the cards are on the table, and when I say the cards are on the table, I honestly don't think this Mars retrograde is going to be necessarily negative, right? Mars applying to Saturn and pushing all of that Mars energy, that's pretty negative, right? That's pretty hardcore. Mars stationing retrograde and starting to move backwards while Saturn stationing direct and Jupiter stationing direct. It's okay, hold on. More bigger things are kind of moving forward here. And this isn't necessarily the time to, I don't say this isn't necessarily the time. what I will say is this is kind of the time to look at like all the cards are on the table. Nothing's going, I don't want to say nothing's going to pop up. I would say that now that we've gotten to this end point, now that also if you've played Rummy too, to go back to the Rummy analogy, sometimes people's turns can take a fucking minute because they pull up a card, or like someone will pick up the pile, and then they pick up the pile, and it's like they lay this down, then they'll play this card on your cards, and they'll play this other card on the other person's card, and they have to discard still. It takes a minute. With Mars stationing retrograde, this is kind of the time to go, okay, what's next? What is the next move I need to make? Sometimes, it's your turn to pick up the pile of cards that are discarded. Sometimes maybe it's not the best idea to pick up the cards that are discarded. I think during this Mars retrograde, it's either going to be one or the other. Either it's time to pick up those cards, or maybe hold on a second, maybe take a break and maybe wait a minute. But at the end of the day, with the moon squaring the sun and the sun trining Jupiter, Wednesday is going to be a day of cold, hard calculation, trying to think of, okay, what's going to be the best move? But the sun's trining Jupiter. There's an opportunity here. We're seeing how good things are going to eventually be happening and how they're going to move forward. And I think that's what we have to keep our minds on Wednesday. But Mars stationing is going to be the day where we start doing things different. I want to know what you guys are doing for this Mars retrograde. Personally, since I don't really ever talk about my life too much on here anymore, by the way, so personally what I'm doing is I'm sober again. I'm on day 4, day 3 or day 4, I don't remember. I'm going sober again. I stopped being sober in the middle of July, and I got really sad after that. I'm going sober for the rest of Mars retrograde, if not for the rest of the year. I'm playing that one by ear, but definitely at the minimum Mars retrograde. But the other thing is I just also hired a personal trainer. I feel like this is a good time to get my health in check. I've always struggled with my body. I was really overweight, not really overweight as a kid, but I say I was overweight because I was really bullied for my weight and my looks. And so it just left like a really big imprint on myself. And then once I became an adult, I got really poor. And when I lived in Vegas, there was a time in my life where I was unemployed. I had done a pretty big coke bender, and after that I was to make money to literally feed myself. And by the way, feed myself was literally like I had like McDonald's once a day. I was living off peanut butter, and then I lived at a punk house. My roommate, who was in a punk band, also worked at a pizza place, and he brought home a pizza every night. So my meal was literally like McDonald's, peanut butter for protein, and then pizza and cigarettes to suppress my appetite. But also at the same time, I was going to donation. I was donating plasma and making $40, and so I was getting really skinny, and I got really sucked in, and I was just like unhealthy. And so, long story short, I've had a really big. I've always had a lot of issues with my body, my health, being in shape, and so I've looked at this as like this is kind of the time to do it. The Venus retrograde, and when the South Node went over my ascendant, that was when I quit nicotine. I went sober for a minute. I was like running every day, and I felt great. And I feel like this Mars retrograde is a great time for me to do it. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. I want to show you guys that like I'm not just saying this shit like, oh, blah blah blah. Like this is a good time to do this shit, but I'm not doing anything. Like I'm going sober again. I want to change. I want to change my health and my diet, and I know that's going to change my life. And this Mars retrograde, I think, is going to change a lot of our lives. So I want to know, what do you guys plan on doing? And sometimes, and I don't want you guys to sit here and be like, oh no, I'm not doing anything, fuck, like I'm ruining an opportunity. The good news is, this is astrology. Sometimes you don't have to do anything because it just happens to you anyway. Like when you look at astrology, especially when you get into things like annual profections, like you didn't choose half of the shit that you went through in your life, but it happened, right? And the astrology can show that. It's the same thing with this Mars retrograde. Be open to what can happen, and don't beat yourself up if you're not choosing to do anything. But for those that are choosing to do something different, or they are changing, I would love to know where Mars is at in your chart. Like where Aries is at. Like, is it in your 9th house? Is it in your 10th house? Is it in your 5th house? Where is it at, and what do you plan on doing? Anyway, we need to move on. We get into Thursday. And this is when the moon makes a sextile to Mars right before it ingresses into Cancer. Now, whoops, wrong button. As we get into Thursday and the moon then moves into Gemini, or not moves into Gemini, the moon's going to still be in the Gemini, but right before it moves into Cancer, it's going to be applying to Mars. This is also the moon conjoining the North Node here. It was really funny when I recorded this the first time. I was really dude, me on I don't drink energy drinks. I'm a coffee type person, but that was like I've been getting back into energy drinks lately, and I sound like a crackhead when I hyper. I mean, if you guys go back in my old videos back in like 2017 or 2018, you'll see how much I can just like talk and how fast I used to talk. The moon in Gemini conjoining the North Node, same thing. Hyperactivity. Your mind's going to be going a billion miles an hour. But as it's sextiling Mars, there's this opportunity to go like, okay, where are things going? Now that Mars is retrograde, it's like, oh, now that Mars is retrograde, I'm going to do this. This is going to turn into this, and this is going to turn into that. Your mind's going to be going a million miles an hour on Thursday with all of the changes that are in place. If you can keep up, good for you. I know my fire and my air signs will be able to keep up. For all my water and earth signs out there, this you guys are probably crying in the comments right now, but this is going to be the time to where the things that you know that you need to do different, or the things that end up coming up for you that you're going to have to do different. The moon in Gemini conjoining the North Node, sextiling Mars, this is where you get the ideas of what to do different, where you go, oh, okay, I see how I can do things differently. I see how I can apply things differently. I can see the solutions at hand. Now, also if we look at this chart here, this is by 11:30 p.m. on Thursday, and the moon's still not in Cancer. The moon's not going to ingress into Cancer until late Thursday night, going into Friday morning. And that's where things just get a little bit more serious. This is where things get more focused on, okay, what is actually of necessity? What actually do we need to be paying attention to? What am I actually feeling? And that kind of leads us into Friday on the 11th. This is when we're going to be having the sun opposite Neptune, and we're going to be having the moon make a square to Mercury. Now, this is a little bit frustrating and a little bit different. So as the moon goes into Cancer, the energy shifts from hyperactivity to lots of feeling. And the moon in Cancer is going to feel defensive. It's going to feel crabby because it is emotional. It's this sweet comfort zone. But the moon is also making this is applying to a square with Mercury for most of the day. And Mercury in Libra wants everything to sound really nice. Mercury in Libra wants to be like, Mercury in Libra is like, hey, can you not do that? And someone's like, no. And Mercury in Libra is like, okay, like I'll deal with that. That's fine. You can say no to me. But with the moon squaring Mercury, don't be a pushover. Don't be a doormat. Like, say what needs to be said. I think with the moon squaring Mercury, check yourself. Like the way I was kind of explaining this is, if we go back to the chart, the sun is opposite Neptune here. And we're going to talk about this real quick. I'll come back to the moon and Mercury. But with the sun opposite Neptune, the sun's in Virgo, right? We're detailed. We're seeing things clearly. We're trying to get our shit together. We're organized. And it's opposite Neptune. This is like where we see past the illusion, where things are clear. And the analogy I was talking about was, this is like when you and your friends are, let's say you're at a magic show. Little known fact about me, I actually really like magic. I think it's actually pretty fucking cool. You can make fun of me all you want. I think it's cool. But anyway, the sun opposite Neptune is like when you're at a magic show or whatever, and someone sees the sleight of hand trick, and they're like, fucking, I saw it. It's not magical. And it's like, bro, shut the fuck up and like enjoy the fucking show. That's like the moon squaring Mercury in Libra, sun opposite Neptune. Like, you don't have to point out the flaws. Like, don't ruin the magic. Don't say things just because you feel like saying it. Like, know your place and know what to say, when to say it, and how it needs to be said. But with the sun opposite Neptune, we're going to be seeing past the illusion. We're going to be seeing past the fog and the confusion. Mind you, Neptune's retrograde at this point. So this is a time of reflection over the Neptune stuff. And as the sun's opposite it, we're like, okay. Like, I'm starting to understand what is confusing. I'm starting to understand what I am not sure on. I'm starting to see past the bullshit, essentially. But as the moon is squaring Mercury, this is where communicating that or translating that might become difficult. I think as the moon squaring Mercury, don't ruin someone else's fun. don't be a dick. But as the moon squaring Mercury too, if you need to say something, like if it's on your heart and you need to get something out, don't be a pushover either, because Mercury in Libra is really good about just being a fucking doormat. And Mercury, by the way, Mercury is going to get fucked up this transit. Mercury is like the way I've been explaining this is like, it's like Mercury is setting itself up to be bullied. Like, have you ever been in, like, do you remember in school when you'd be in class and there would be like some nerd kid and they would just say shit that would just, it just set them up to be bullied. Like, and I don't like condone any of that, but like, you know, when people just like say shit like, bro, you walked right into that one. That's kind of like Mercury in Libra as it's going to start squaring Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn. But as the moon squaring Mercury, you know, just say it with some confidence. Don't like hold your ground, right? Don't just be a pushover, and don't be silent if you need to say it, but also check yourself. Like, does it need to be said? With the moon in Cancer, it can be easy to be crabby and defensive. And the thing is, with the moon squaring Mercury, communicating emotions, it's not going to go that well. It's going to be kind of hard to be relatable. Like the moon in Cancer, Mercury in Libra, right? We're trying to relate to other people and have good conversation. The moon in Cancer, it's like maybe communicating your emotions and relating to someone else, it's not going to flow that easily. That doesn't say you're not going to do it. You probably will end up doing it anyway, but it's probably going to come out a lot more rough than you expect it to. Anyway, we move on. As we get into September 12th, that's when we're going to be having the moon make an opposition to Jupiter and Saturn as Jupiter stations direct. This is when shit gets good, right? This is in my opinion kind of a good week. The moon is going to go opposite Jupiter, where what I've been kind of preaching, I feel like I've been a broken record on this, is Jupiter and Capricorn is like, this is what we have. We got to figure out how to use it. It's like if we have a car, it's not our dream car, but the car will get us from point A to point B. With the moon making an opposition to Jupiter as Jupiter stations direct, this is kind of going, hey, this is what I need, and this is what I have, and I will do with what I have in order to get what I need. I'm going to do it anyway. Jupiter and Capricorn, like, I'm going to tell you guys right now, Jupiter, like, this is the thing. In astrology, everyone just thinks Jupiter's so great and amazing. You can have too much of a good thing. A lot of people like cocaine, but you can die off of a lot of cocaine very easily. People love sugar, but it kills you also. Like, there's so many good things that if you have too much of, you die, which is a bad thing. Jupiter in Capricorn is very realistic. And I'm making this example because with Jupiter and Sag last year, it was so like, again, anything was possible. With Jupiter and Capricorn, it's like, good things don't have to be extravagant. Good things can just be reliable. Good things can just be realistic. And if it's one thing we've learned about this year, have like all we want right now, right? Everyone just wants everything to go back to normal. Everyone just like all this craziness. It's crazy. We just want things to go back to normal. And the moon in Cancer making that opposition to Jupiter and Capricorn is like, I need to take care of this. This is how I feel, but this is what I have to deal with it. Sure. Again, you don't have a Lamborghini, but you've got like, but I've got like a fucking Volkswagen Jetta, and it's fine because it gets me from point A to point B just as fine as a fucking Lamborghini would. Sure, I don't go a billion miles an hour, but I don't want to go a billion miles an hour. I can get in a car accident that's going to cost me more gas money. I'd much rather reliably get there at 40 miles an hour, you know what I mean, in a safe manner that's cheaper on my insurance. That's Jupiter and Capricorn. Like, that's the opportunity, is the pragmatic, realistic opportunity. And the moon opposite there is like, hey, like, again, this is what I need to take care of, and this is what I have, and this may be the only thing that I have, but I can use this to get what I need. And Jupiter is stationing direct. Things are fucking finally moving forward. We finally see the opportunity to go, okay, now this is where I could take advantage of things. Taking advantage sounds kind of like, it sounds like, I don't know, every time I say taking advantage of something, it just sounds like a dirty word to me. But it just seizing the opportunity, seeing where things can be moving forward. Jupiter in Capricorn is like, okay, what have we been envisioning? With Jupiter first ingressing into Capricorn, it was like, man, what's real, what's solid. Jupiter retrograding in Capricorn is like, oh, you know, when you buy the cheaper version of shit, you get the cheaper quality. But as Jupiter stations direct, you realize you don't need the fancy stuff to get what you want. You can just deal with what you have, and it's great. You just got to be grateful for what you have. And that's the key with Jupiter and Capricorn. And if you are grateful for what you have, and you're grateful for, I mean, this is a shitty year. So if you can remain and if you can have gratitude in times like this, Jupiter is going to bless you. Because also Jupiter is conjoining Pluto, so things can get pretty crazy. Anyway, rant over. I kind of had a lot to say about that. I don't know how this got to Sunday already. Oh, because we're already on Sunday. That was Saturday. Wow, that was Saturday. Okay, so we're already on Sunday. Then we get to Sunday. Moon ingresses into Leo and conjoins Venus, but it also squares Uranus, where, oh wait, not me, chart. I want to say this is good, but I don't think a lot of you are going to like it, so I'm not going to say it's good. I think what I talked about in the horoscope you guys won't watch was speak from the heart. Like, literally, Venus is in Leo in aversion to all of the Capricorn stuff, right? Like, that's behind the corner. That's not here. That's neither here or there. Neptune behind the corner, neither here or there. Venus in Leo's like, I want to have fun. I want to live passionately. I want to, come from the heart. And with the moon going into Leo conjoining Venus, like, what are you putting your heart into? And also, there's the aspect of putting your heart into it, but also, like, are you even having fun? Like, this year can be so monotonous and draining. Like, something I always think about is these, like, because I used to be a server. And so, like, here in California, restaurants, like, they all eat outside. And if you live in California, you understand how fucking hot it is right now. And I can't imagine just going to a restaurant at 2 p.m., sitting outside underneath the Easy Up. And then imagine being a fucking server, having to wear a mask, going outside all damn day, as a server, I had a patio restaurant before too. It sucks, but most of my tables are on the inside, so I didn't have to do it that much. But imagine having to go out the whole fucking time, stand in this heat with a fucking mask, making a quarter of what you were making before, because you fucking have to. Like, it can just be so draining, and especially if you're a server watching this, like with Venus and Leo, go and have fucking fun. Like, it's so easy to suffer this year. Suffering is very easy at this moment. Venus and Leo, with the moon going into Leo, conjoining Venus, have fun. Tap into your inner child. Like, do you, like, I went and drove up the PCH today, and I saw so many people at the beach, and part of me was like, wow, no one's really wearing masks. And so it kind of gives you this, like, sense of, like, okay, what even is reality right now? But the other part of it is, like, at least people are still trying to have fun. And I think with the moon conjoining Venus here, what's going to make you feel good? What's going to make you feel like you're coming from the heart? Another thing I talked about is with this moon Venus conjunction is one of my favorite songs of all time. And that's I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. That song, I mean, so when I was DJing weddings, I always played that song as the third song before the last song. And what was cool is, I mean, everyone's fucked up by that point. Everyone's having a good time. And I'd play like rap, like all like the, fucking grindy rap that everyone would like all have fun to. And then I'd put on I Want to Dance with Somebody with Whitney Houston, and everyone sang their hearts out to that song. And it was just a good time. And it's like, that song is like the epitome of like Venus and Leo. Like, I want to have fun. I want to dance with somebody who loves me. I want to feel the heat with somebody. Like, the moon conjoining Venus, like, are you having fun? Are you coming from the heart? And even if you're not having fun, if we're going to the personal development perspective here, are you putting your heart into it? Because if you're putting your heart into it, you are having fun. The only problem I do see, and this is why I said I don't know if this is going to be good or not, because it is going to be squaring Uranus. Venus isn't going to square Uranus exactly till next week, so we have some time. But as the moon is conjoining Venus and then eventually going to square Uranus, there is this uncomfortability here. And the way I explained this was like, the spotlight feels really good, but it can instantly get really bad really fast. Like, the center of attention is really good until it's not. And then it's the last place you want to fucking be. And so with the moon and Leo conjoining Venus, get that pride, like, get the spotlight. And this is also going to just be a good time to communicate your feelings. Tell people you love them. Other people are going to tell you that they love you. As the moon squares Uranus, though, there is this, like, volatility, unpredictability, this instability is a good way to look at it. And so it's going to feel a little unstable. Like, it's not a consistent feeling. You're not going to feel like this all day long. You're going to get little spurts of it, or it might just come up and then instantly go back down. That's fine. That's just how life goes. Sometimes shit's great for a long time. Sometimes shit's only great for a minute. But if it's only great for a minute, for the love of God, take in that minute while you can. Like, just be grateful for that minute while you have it. And I think as we go into Sunday, reflecting on how this week was, like, when you watch this video I hope you watch it on Monday morning, when I post this, by the time you get to the next video next week, we're going to be doing things completely differently. And I think on Sunday, it's going to be the time to really reflect on, like, how do I feel about that? Do I feel proud of the actions that I took? Do I feel excited about the things that I took? Do I feel like I'm doing the thing that's loving me the most? Because that's, again, Venus and Leo at the end of the day is about you loving yourself, period. Like, and there's people out there that think, oh, you know, Venus and Leo, oh, they want the attention too much. Well, that's just because you're fucking jealous because you never got the attention like that, or you think that you don't deserve attention like that. We all deserve to be in the spotlight and to be Venus and Leo. It's whether or not you accept it. And at the end of this week, this is going to be the time to, like, did you take the actions that told yourself that you loved yourself? And if not, what are you waiting for? There's 3 things that were big this year. Well, 4 things. Technically 5. I take that back. There's 5 things, but we haven't hit the 5th one yet. The first one was that Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Wow, that was crazy. We got, a pandemic that literally stopped the whole fucking world. Well, actually, no, we had 6 things. There was the Saturn-Pluto, God, this year was crazy. Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Then we had the Mars-Saturn conjunction, which stopped everything. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction was like, that's when COVID basically came into town. And then Saturn-Mars conjunction was everything stopped. Then we had the Venus retrograde when you had all of the protests everywhere. Then we had, and that was also the node switching. Now we have the Mars retrograde. And I don't want to even look at this in a mundane level because this is so crazy. And trust me, what we're seeing right now, it's not going to be like this in 6 months. So don't even worry about the current state of the world. Worry about you because you're the one who's also interacting in this world. And with how fucked, and I'm speaking strictly to my American followers here too. If you're in the other part of the world, you guys are going through it too, but we're going through it way worse than you guys are because we're so polarized and everyone's so divided here. And that was another thing I was saying in the last other horoscope was like, here in America, like fuck, dude, like shit is so, especially here in LA, like just there's a lot of tension with everyone and everything. We're so polarized and divided. Like, we need to focus on ourselves so we can be the best version of ourselves that we can put into this world because we've been getting beat up. We've been fucking tired. And when we're tired and cranky, we're just one bad conversation away from blowing up on someone. And when we do that and we put that out in the world, we're just passing it along. So take care of yourself this week. Do what's going, because when we get to Sunday, you're going to say, you by the time you get to Sunday, you're just going to want to be proud of what you've done for yourself and that you should be loving yourself. So I'm going to end it with that. We get into next week. Next week, Venus squares Uranus. Next week, we have the new moon in Virgo. And if you watch my September horoscope, thank you. I got way more views on this than usual. So I know you guys listen to me and I actually really appreciate that. But if you watch my September horoscope, I talked about the new moon in Virgo. And this new moon in Virgo that we're having, which is next week, is trining Saturn exactly. So if you're like waiting for like this perfect time to get everything just right and for things to move forward, it's that new moon in Virgo. Like the new moon in Virgo is like, okay, if you guys play guitar or like, cause I just bought a guitar too, because Mars is in my 5th. I'm trying to have more fun with music. The new moon in Virgo is like tuning everything the exact way it needs to be tuned. And if you play guitar, I have a 7-string and I'm playing drop C right now. It's like those lower tunings, it's harder to kind of dial in because it's so loosey-goosey. The new moon in Virgo is like dialing in your tone, dialing in and tuning your shit the way you want it to. Next week is when we dial everything in. This week is about the change. But anyway, next week, new moon in Virgo. Next week, we also have Mercury squaring Jupiter, which is just kind of another thing. And then also next week, Sun trine Saturn. So to leave you guys off, this week is where all the change happens. Next week, there's we dial in our tone, we dial in our tuning and whatnot. But just do what you got to do this week. Listen, something I talked about, and I haven't talked about in this video, but I talked about in the other one. Listen to your intuition. Trust your gut, especially when the moon transits Cancer through fucking, what is that, Thursday and Friday? Trust your intuition. Listen to your gut. let this week guide you. Like, go with what, just go with it. Don't question it, because the second you question it, that's when fear comes up, and then that's what stops you. And you don't want that this week. Just go with it. Just trust it, and you'll deal with the consequences, or you'll deal with the other side of it once you get to the other side of it. You know, don't plan about crossing bridges that you're not even there yet. Like, cross the bridge once you get there. So with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. Again, please book a reading with me. It supports me being able to do this, and this is also just, I feel like I'm loving my client work right now. I'm loving talking to you guys, and just in this moment, there's so much happening that, like, if you want advice on what's going on, like, this is definitely a good time to get a reading. So I'm gonna leave it with that. With that being said, again, thank you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for being here, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and I'll be seeing you guys next week.